last week, they were completely rammed. They were filled up to the gunnels, they were queuing down the street. They said, you should have been here last week. I swear, you should have been here last week. Oh yeah, you should have been here last week.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of You Should Have Been Here Last Week, the comedy industry podcast that everyone's talking about, hosted by me, Steve Gribbin, and my fellow comedian, Paul Ricketts, in which we interview the movers and the shakers of the comedy business.
All subjects will be touched in future episodes, I reckon.
Yes, but not in a... We've got to touch on that, but I was going to say not in a Kevin Spacey way, but there you see, come on, say that.
I think you can get away with that. I mean, he did.
So this week's edition is dealing with, we thought we'd do a special edition of our best and worst places to perform comedy in. So our top 5 and our bottom 5 worst comedy spaces. So where should we begin?
Should we start with the top or the bottom? What do you fancy?
No, we'll do the top first, and then
then you work our way down.
Yeah, that's it.
That's old school. So, starting from number 5, village halls. I'm a big fan of those. Then, one of many pub entrances, in terms of in this list, is pub cellar. Theatres is number 3. When I'm talking about studio spaces, and the number 2 is theatres, where you just got the stage, a traditional theatre, cross arch, auditorium. And number 1, most obviously, purpose-built comedy venues.
Who would have guessed that would be number 1? You know, that places that were built to actually house comedy with good sight lines, excellent sound, and brilliant acoustics. Who would have thought? Very similar to you, my top 5, going in reverse order. I've got small theatres. I've got huge theatres. That's number 3. Then I've got art centres, which is a different kind of thing entirely. And then number 2 is rooms above pubs. And then I've got the same purpose-built comedy clubs top.
Let's start at the bottom, and let's start with one of the ones that I've got that you haven't got, and that's village halls. I like them because, there's an element that the stages might be too high. That's one of the things that goes against them.
No, the thing is that with those the audience is like this, aren't they?
Yeah.
Get a crick in their neck.
But, I mean, if they're right next to the front, I mean, you have to have a little bit of a gap so that doesn't happen. Yeah. But what I like about them is you go in there, there's tons of equipment which nobody has any idea how to use. It's
that's
I always find that amazing. You go, oh, look at this fantastic speaker system. No, none of us know how to use it. I mean, look at all those lights. No one knows how to switch them on. That's why we've asked you to bring your own.
A lot of those places always look like they've just finished having a harvest festival, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, with those big curtains that come past, and you expect somebody, the vicar, to come on and start going, we plough the fields and scatter.
Yeah, but at the end of the show, that Dad's Army's going to come in and have a little, Captain Mandarin's going to have a little speech. The Verger's going to tell us all to get out. It gives you that sort of feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I can see their attraction. My thing is that I do. I mean, obviously, we're increasingly playing different types of venues. I don't like it when they're too cliquey, though. I
like the cliquiness.
I don't like that.
I like the cliquiness.
No,
I like the village dynamic. I like the thing. There's always a bit of a class division going on there. There's people who live in the village but work outside the village. There's people who live in the village and work near the village. There's that dichotomy. There's rich and poor. There's young and old. They're all there.
I once did a gig in Banbury, though, and it was ruined by every single routine was greeted with, that's true, that is. Oh, Bill, he does that. We couldn't get through our act because they kept interrupting, but not interrupting us, interrupting it with themselves. You know,
it was having a discussion. Every joke causes a discussion.
Oh, and I've got to tell you that one I did in the it was in the commuter belt somewhere like in Surrey, and there was a woman in the front row with an iPad, and she was working on the iPad as the show was going on, and I can't remember who the compere was. Just stopped the show and said, "Does anyone else think this is rude?" And someone just goes, "Oh no, that's old Joyce. That is. She works up in the city. She's got a lot of work. She's very hard worker, Joyce." And then everyone else clapped like this and goes, "Yeah, let her carry on. You know, she's hard. She's hard. Works hard." And she ruined the show completely.
Well, only because you let her. You didn't have to keep talking to her or looking at her. Look somewhere else.
Yeah, it was very hard.
Did a village hall in Hertfordshire. Pulled up in the car. There was a fight going on in the car park as I pulled up. So the fight was just ending. Bloke was getting dragged off by his girlfriend, and they were having an argument as he was leading them away, and he was all bloodied, and the other bloke was shouting after him as I came in and says, "Is this the venue for the, for the comedy night?" And I went into the place. It was just febrile is the best word. It was just, the atmosphere there was like, there was an edge to everything. And the MC talking to the audience, and he said, I'll get two women up on stage. It might have been three. And the game that he was going to play was the sound of their orgasm. So each one in turn had to make the sound of their orgasm. One was quite polite, orgasm. The other one was a bit more moany. And the other one, the last one, was like the sound of Tarzan coming through the jungle. It was the sort of sound that would make all the animals in the jungle turn around and go, what the fuck is that? Birds would fly off, that sort of thing.
Oh, God.
And it was just a ridiculous noise. And it got a round of applause. She turned out she was a local hairdresser. She won. And she goes, she says, "Of course I fucking won. I fucked most of the blokes here." A massive cheer.
Well, they probably they might not have recognised that sound.
I think they did.
Do you know what? There's a link there because we haven't mentioned that. But I mean, both you and I have done this gig, but we're not going to name it because it's. But we've done a gig in a hairdresser's, haven't we? And there was a fish tank there, wasn't there? And then it was huge cavernous ceiling. It was one of the worst set-up gigs I've ever. Oh my God, it was terrible.
Well, I thought the theme of a hairdresser being fish is a bit of a weird one.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So I found that quite weird because they had sort of nets with fishing objet d'art in the nets. Turned out they weren't proper nets, so they're sort of string bags you get from Primark.
And by the way, it was nowhere near the sea, was it? This venue?
No,
it was in somewhere like Sussex. It was like nowhere near the sea.
And it was also next door to a gun shop, which I don't find that's never nice. If you're doing a gig next door to a place that's got weapons.
Yeah, is that in case you got a bad hairdo?
Well, yeah, come back.
I want to see Doris. Oh, she's out the back having an orgasm. Oh, all right then. Theatres. I think doing a big theatre, it is one of the most fantastic feelings ever when it's a packed theatre, like 600 or 700 people. It's the atmosphere is just amazing. When a laugh sort of ripples back, you know, it's a brilliant thing.
Yeah,
and also to be treated properly is quite good as well.
Yeah, to have a proper dressing room. Yeah, with lights on it, lights around the mirror, and have people come in and say, "Yes, we have 5 minutes, beginners."
Beginners. I was just going, beginners, please. Yeah, I mean they're good venues, big theatres. Small theatres are really good as well. I like small, compact theatres.
As I said, I put them next to each other, but studio spaces which are different from theatres. So you haven't got the stage. What I like about being on stage is it's a stage. You get to wander about, channel your inner Michael McIntyre, and start treading the boards a bit. And I like that. I like the freedom of it. And the sound's always good. The light's always good. They're designed for you to be the only focus. And it's great, but obviously they have to be full. If they're not full, being on stage in a big theatre, there is nothing worse. And I've done several gigs where they've been scattered far and wide. Sometimes each one had a separate row by themselves,
Yeah.
all on different sides of this big theatre. When you get to the studio ones, those are the ones where it's normally the seats are raked going upwards and you're on the ground level and you're performing up towards the audience. So it's different from a stage where the opposite thing's happening and you're performing downwards and sometimes upwards as well if the upper tier is open and the middle tier. But and I think they're nice because they're more intimate. I like the stage better and you like the smaller space better by the sounds of it.
Well, the Rope Tackle Art Centre in Beverley, not Beverley. Oh God, I'm going to get killed now. It's in outside Hull.
Barton
upon Humber. That is a well set out art centre, and it's a beautiful space and nice atmosphere. And again, it's got to be full, obviously. But and also, I find as well as art centres are often staffed, especially by the people that put the comedy on. They really love the comedy, and for them, it's not just about the bums on seats aspect. If you engage in a conversation, they're often very knowledgeable. There's one in Chorlton as well. That guy is legendary for putting on actual food. That's another thing, by the way, that's biased for performers. When you go there, there's a lovely rider. I mean, we should explain to any non-performer types. A rider is what you get in the dress room. And
for
there used to be some for free, yes.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. But normally it's a packet of crisps and normally it's nothing, is it?
Normally they might even charge you for the water. Some people do. They come with a bottle and go, that'd be £1.50.
Yeah. That happened to me at Durham Theatre once. I went and bought a cup of coffee. And previously, under the old sort of like regime or whatever, it had been all free, and we used to have sandwiches. And I bought a cup of coffee, and she went, "That'll be £1.89." I went, "You what?" She said, "Yeah, go on." She said, "I'll wait." I said, "Well, I haven't got any money on me." She said, "Well, you can go and get your card, can't you?" And I was absolutely fuming.
Well, comedians, if we find out there's free stuff, we tend to go over the top. I mean, there's the old joke about the comic on death row, and they give him the menu. And he goes, "So what's the menu for?" He goes, "It's for your final meal. We're going to execute you tomorrow." He goes, "Oh, my agent never told me there was free food."
Yeah, that'd be typical. He'd order everything on the menu.
Yeah. Oh, this is all right. Well, good gig.
Oh, God. That is funny.
So purpose comedy venues, I think the only drawback with them is food, drink, and I can't mention the names because they're so famous. I remember saying this to the proprietor last time I was there. So the only thing wrong with this place is you need better bloody toilets. You need bigger toilets.
Well,
because the queues are ridiculous. And it means that all the energy that is in the audience at the end of a really good section is all dissipated by complaints and moaning as queues at the bar, and it always begins with a massive queue at the toilet, and then these people then go and join a massive queue at the bar. Stick an extra toilet in would really help.
Although this is, and I'm not going to name the place, this actually happened to me once, talking about the toilets. A woman in the front row got up and I was starting to take the piss out, where you going, okay, etc. And she just let fly the biggest vomit. And because it was so close to the stage, it was like projectile. It went, ugh, and then it went bounce, and it hit the top of my shoes.
Ooh.
And I had to do the rest of my set. Luckily, we only had about 5 more minutes, but I kept going. Anyway, that was because I'm really bad with
vomit.
Oh God, it was horrible. I
don't know many people who are good with vomit. No, who likes a bit of vomit? I mean, obviously, there's some weird bloke that followed that woman into the toilet just to get some more vomit action.
Yeah, some more vomit action.
I mean, the only time I've ever vomited over someone vomiting was, this has got nothing to do with comedy. I was in a nightclub and there was 2 people snogging, and one of them vomited into the other one's mouth. And that almost sent me.
Oh, God. That's now available on YouTube as a specialist video, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the deepest French kiss you can have, isn't it, really?
Oh, God. Oh, dear. That's the other thing as well. Purpose-built comedy clubs, that's what I was going to talk about, is I do like the fact that there's security there, and most of the time they're really good. One time, there's a famous story that Dave Fulton was on stage, and he's right in the middle of a gag, and he was coming to the end of it, and someone threw a coin at him, and it hit him on the forehead, and he just stopped mid-gag and just walked off without saying a word, and there was almost a riot because people go, no, we want to hear the end. And then swiftly, the bouncers descended on the person, just dragged them out, which is good to see. One of the things that annoys me about the pub type gigs is that if it kicks off in a violent way or there's no one to sort it out.
So let's go to the bottom 5.
Number 5, anywhere outdoors. Number 4, the theatre foyer area, which I think is like a cruel joke. Number 3, purpose-built music venues. I don't think they ever work for comedy.
Really?
Number 2, in a pub. You put in the corner, but I think anywhere in a pub where people don't have to pay, where they can just walk in and see you, because they've done some of the worst gigs of my life. And then number 1, I've got hotel function rooms, specifically with a sprung dance floor.
Right, okay. So this is my 5. Particular sporting club, golf clubs. I could have put in rugby club, football club, cricket club. But it is the golf club that I've chosen for particular reasons. I've put in Zoom comedy gigs number 4.
Oh, God, yeah.
And number 3, I put in restaurant where there's a big window frontage. Number 2, nightclub.
Yes. Oh,
just
God.
Nightclub. And number 1, in the corner of a pub, where the stage is also near the toilet. That's where do we want to start then? At the bottom?
Oh, yeah, let's start at the bottom then. So, for me, in my one, outdoors means I don't know if you've ever done a gig like on the back of a lorry in a car park, which I have quite a few times actually, and it never ever. I mean, it sounds like the ideal scenario, doesn't it? Normally the sound was terrible. Anywhere where the audience is not fixed, where they can sort of walk past, and they're not committed to the gig at all.
Well, that sounds like festival, and you like festivals.
When they're well done, they can be great. I mean, there was one year at Reading Festival, which is great. It lives on in the memory, where they put the comedy tent next door to the NME soundstage, and it was an absolute disaster. I still never forget, though, Ross Noble, at the beginning of his set, the Dandy Warhols came on, and you know that song, Bohemian Like Me?
Yeah.
Is a Bohemian like me. But the beginning of that got an intro that sort of goes down, 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 and it goes on and on and on. And Ross Noble just thought, oh, fuck it. And he just started doing a little rap.
Yeah.
I know it sounds naff, but it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And at the end of it, you got like, you know, people just go wild. He dealt with it really well. But most people, even me as a musical actor, you can't compete with, you know, 10,000 megawatts of a band. So they're bad. But I don't like open air gigs in general, though, like in a pub garden. It's like that thing, you know, it's almost like comedy's like a precious little flower. And if you expose it to sunlight.
When the sun shines, when you're outside, it don't work. Because there's, I've seen an act heckled by a load of migrating geese. This happens at a gig where the geese came over and go, wah, 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 and everyone looked up. They're all in formation. And the act was still, you know, how can you take that on? A thing of natural beauty. You just can't.
I once saw somebody in an outdoor gig, I won't say who it was, and as they were doing something, it was almost in the street. It was a pub car park that backed onto a street, and as they were talking, this was like, woo, 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 woo. And he goes, this will give it away when I do the accent bit where it was, but the act goes, oh, what's that? And one of the punchers goes, they come for you, mate. The whole audience, and that was it. It was gone. The gig was gone. Outdoors is really hard.
They get good when they get dark. As soon as the sun goes in.
I think you need that thing where people think they're under a spell or something, and it's broken with daylight. You
don't get the benefit of your laughs, do you? That's the whole point. You need to enclose the laughs, and outside the laughs disappear into the ether,
up to the geese,
taken away by the geese.
All right, the number 4 I've got is theatre foyers, which I think is like one of the cruelest. So you go to a really nice theatre and you get a glimpse inside of a really nice stage, and then they go, "You're in this place." I once did a gig there, and you'll know this feeling because this applies to pubs as well. There was this was in the times before cigarettes were outlawed indoors, and there was a cigarette machine, and we begged. The guy behind the bar said, "Can you turn off the cigarette? Can you just block the access to the cigarette machine? Because it's right next to the stage." He went, "No, mate." And all the way through the gig, just streams of people just coming up, getting fags.
Yeah.
And of course, do you remember the old ones? You're trying to compete against that. Oh, God. Yeah, they're terrible. Music venues, purpose-built music venues.
I disagree with you because they are the ones that I've played, especially the small music venues, are absolutely perfect for comedy.
When they're only having comedy on, though,
yes,
not when they mix it with bands. That's what I meant.
But that's different. That's a lineup balls up. It's not a space problem. The space is perfect because the sound is brilliant. The stages aren't that high unless they've got those barrier at the front to stop people from diving on stage. I'm thinking it's a comedy gig. I will not be stage diving tonight. You don't have to worry about it. But apart from that, stage is the right size, lights are good, sound is excellent. You're arguing about doing gigs with bands, different thing, shouldn't happen. But, obviously I've done it, like you have.
Yeah. There's a famous, I reminded, when I saw Arnold Brown quite recently, I reminded him of this gig, that it was with the pop rock combo, the Redskins, who were a left-wing skinhead band in the 80s and 90s, at the Mean Fiddler in Harlesden. At first, by the way, the Redskins were adamant that they were going to go on first and then
leave.
And then leave. And it was absolutely, they were quite famous at the time. It was about 1988 or 89, and they were big. And then it was almost like on our knees just going, "Please, for the love of God, don't do this." Mm. And in the end, you know what they did? I mean, it wasn't ideal. They said, "Oh, well, we'll go on first and then we'll go on at the end as well." Oh, God. And it was really hard. But it's the only time I've ever seen Arnold Brown, for those people who know comedy, lose it. Someone was heckling him. He goes, "What the fuck did you say, you cunt?" Can you imagine Arnold Brown saying that?
No. But the problem with when you mix music and comedy is there's no seating for the audience because it's a music gig first. Yeah. I mean, I had to open for, what's his name, the lead singer of Fine Young Cannibals,
Roland Gift. Yeah.
And I did 2 Christmas tours with him and his band. I had to think, well, how am I going to survive here? And then, of course, I realised the good way to survive here was to take the piss out of him. So, which is what I did, I did a karaoke who can sing like Roland Gift competition.
Johnny, come on home.
And I started it. And get these 3 contestants up, and I'd ask each one every night. I'd go, "So what's your favourite album from Fine Young Cannibals?" And every night they went, "The best of."
Yes, committed fans then, committed. Yeah, that's funny.
Golf clubs, I'm going to go into that because sporting clubs can be tough, right? I mean, rugby clubs can be awful. Well, you think they can be. You think that rugby clubs and football clubs, cricket clubs, I've done lots of them, and I'm certain you have as well.
Yeah.
But mainly what happens is none of the team, all the supporters tend to turn up for the gig.
Yeah.
It's normally comedy fans will turn up. They're normally really nice gigs. I did a cricket club in Yorkshire, and I just walked past the notice board, and the name of the child protection officer was Brian Fiddler. And that was,
Oh God, that's brilliant.
I'm sorry, Brian, if you're watching or listening to this, but I had a really good laugh out of you.
That's excellent. Yeah, but what's so bad? What's so bad about golf clubs then?
Golf clubs is the golfers turn up, small businessmen, builders who have done well, or they're normally just arsehole men. And they feel you're in their space. You're not in a comedy space. You're in their space.
Yeah.
And they tend not to be, they have their arms folded, go, make me laugh. There's that sort of attitude about them.
Yeah.
So I don't like them.
I'll give you that one. one. Yeah. And then afterwards, if they don't heckle you, they just put like this little thing, and they put a little black ball in it, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do they vote each other? I've never understood that.
That's the Masons, isn't it? It's the Masons.
No, it's the golf club thing as well.
Really? They got black balls there?
Yeah.
I thought they were white.
That's a good little one too. And we both got the same top worst gig, haven't we? Which is hotel fucking function rooms.
Hotel, I've got it number 4.
Oh, have you? Oh.
In fact, I haven't got it in mine. I took it out and put nightclubs in. But you've got it because they're soulless. They can be really, really soulless in their function rooms.
Yeah.
And I've had things where they've put on barely any effort at all. Once I turned up to a place, it's in a hotel, and they had no stage, no microphone, no lights, no anything. And then the proprietor of the hotel came up to us and said, well, we just thought you could do some table comedy and just walk around and just tell your jokes to the people at the table. We had magicians in the other day, and they were very successful at it. And to which I said, no fucking way.
Oh, my God.
No way. There is no such thing as table comedy.
Close table comedy.
Yeah. Go up to someone in the midst of, a roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and go, excuse me, so there was these 3 Irishmen went into a pub.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that we even do that. You'd have to go, well, I was born in Bedford and blah, blah, do all your... You just can't do it.
Yeah. And yet they couldn't give a shit about how to set the comedy thing up. But the most precious thing in their lives is the Sprung dance floor. It's like they're precious, isn't it? Do not touch Sprung dance floor. It's just the amount of times you go, oh, no, you can't have a chair on that. It's thousands of pounds worth of Sprung dance floor. You can't touch that,
Yeah. That 20-stone woman in high heels is going to cause no damage to it at all. When she's doing the Watusi, she'll be fine.
So there'll be a vast chasm between you and the audience. Here's a megaphone. Oh, God, some of the worst gigs ever is that massive gap.
Yeah.
You can't bridge. You can't do it.
No, I mean, I think we might have talked about this before, but that's the worst, some of the worst deaths. In fact, probably the worst death of my career was exactly that situation. Sprung dance floor, 8 miles away, the audience. Also, radio mic that when you got to the edge of the dance floor, stopped working.
Oh, my God. There's one that we can't mention, but people might know where it is, where the floor in front of you is like a giant board of checkers, like the lit up dance floor from Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah. That gets us to nightclubs, which is very, very nicely done there, Steve. Swerved
I didn't even know.
Beautifully into this. Yeah, nightclubs. Oh, God. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying most of them. I mean, so, okay, no sprung dance floor, but sticky floor. Yes. I remember seeing a cleaner in this venue there with a mop before the show started. And
was that to mop up the comedian's tears? Was it?
No, I think she was putting the sticky on. She was, because at the end of it, I thought, so what you got in that mop bucket? You got some beer, a bit of vomit, some urine,
chewing gum.
Yeah, blue tack, boss stick.
Oh, God.
But the thing about nightclubs is, one, in a place that plays music really loud and has speakers in every single orifice, how come the sound is always terrible in a nightclub? 2, you're not the main point of the evening for most of the people who come to a nightclub. You're just the hors d'oeuvre. Pulling. Let's be more. little genteel about this, and the fact they have group bookings of hen and stag and birthday. And I wish Wakes would turn up. It would improve the atmosphere, but they don't.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the worst gigs I ever did is way back in the old days, like in the 80s when I was in Skin Video. But we turned up to this nightclub in Blackpool, and when we got there was just a dance floor, obviously. Huge dais where the DJ, he was like God, you know. And then you were in front of that on the dance floor, and there was no sound at all. So this is actually true. We went to the guy who was running it, said, have you got any microphones? And the way he replied was just, microphones?
Yes, but
just like he'd never heard of it before.
He's got one for him.
Yeah,
that's the other
microphones.
Thing. Performing in front of a DJ. Why do they always have to stand behind you? Why are they always men? Why are they always men older than most people that go to a nightclub? And why do they always go, no, you can't use my mic. You can't. Why not?
Well,
no, it's just my special mic.
It's my special mic, yeah. Makes me. They talk like that, but when they get on the microphone, they sound like this. That's a true story, but we did, well, I can say it now because it's gone, Tiger in Portsmouth. And it was an awful, awful gig. And so, as you well know.
I was waiting for that to come. If you didn't mention it, I was just going to say, for people who are playing, you should have been here last week, bingo, this is the moment you get your card out, and we're going to say, Jonglers Portsmouth.
Yeah. And what it was we were all doing a sound check, especially me as a music guy. But so, and then the DJ was doing a sound check after he's like, oh, welcome to everybody. The owner of car 3335G, please move into it. So I actually went up and I said, excuse me, you can see our sound's really bad. Can we use yours? And he just looked at me and went, nope.
No.
And we all went, it's like going over the top in the First World War. We all just died horribly. Because and then he came on afterwards and went, well, that was the comedy, if you can call it that.
God, I hate them. Why do they want to compete with us? We're not in the same businesses, but they're never helpful. And I always make the same joke, which they hate. And they go, obviously, you can see the DJ behind me because he's a great fan of my arse. And why shouldn't he be? I've got a fantastic arse. Are you digging this up? One, are you liking it? You liking this? I'm going to shake that tush. And they go, how dare you say that about me? How dare you? Oh, well, yeah, sorry. Worst one I did, Watford. I can't remember if it was a Prism. It was Jonglers, Watford. Sound was so awful. It's when, because yes, Jonglers Watford used to be in a venue which he used to have a little stage, but then
Oceana, wasn't it? Oceana?
Oceana was the other one. That's the one I'm talking about. So they moved over the road from that venue when they split Jonglers playing highlights and Jonglers. They moved to Oceania, a huge cavern of a building.
Yeah.
Sound was ridiculous. They couldn't hear us. And I was on with Adam Bloom. The rest of us all died. Adam Bloom just went, fuck this, jumped off the stage, told the people at the front to go back because he's going to stand on their table, stood on their table, shouted his act, and survived. And we applauded him at the end because he did what he had to do. I was once
on my way to do that gig from the train station, and as I was going past, I met Mike Gunn, who'd been opening. And as we passed, he had a really bad look on his face, and I said, what was it like? And he just looked at me and went, what do you think? And I just carried on. And you know what? When I got there, he was absolutely right. Yeah, it was horrible. I actually got mugged on the way back because the long walk back to the train station, and some bloke tried to take the guitar off me. And when I resisted, he really punched me hard in the face. But I never lost my grip on the guitar, and so he punched me again. And,
what is it about you and people just wanting to punch you? I mean,
I've got a punchable face.
In the comedy, in the bingo card, people here who are listening to this going, Steve gets attacked again. Tick that one up.
That's fair. It's the only time I've ever been. No, it's not actually. I've been,
No, it's not. You've told
was-
at least 5 stories about people punching you on this show
Yeah,
so far.
that was on.
And I think,
That was on stage though. That's different. This was off stage.
Oh, right,
What I'm going to
okay.
say is, I was rescued by a black cab driver. How often does that happen? But it's actually probably more pleasurable than the actual gig had come from.
oh, right.
So I was in a bad mood anyway, because I'd come from Oceania. I thought,
Yeah.
how much worse can this night get?
And then suddenly, give that guitar to me.
Yeah. In retrospect, I should have let him have the guitar.
Yeah,
So,
and the capo, as well.
no, he didn't want the capo. He was not.
No.
He was not au fait
I
with
want the
the
plectrums.
not the red ones. Fuck them,
All of them.
all of them. So have we done everything? Have we done all the bad ones?
No, we haven't done restaurant. Restaurant in with the window. Anything that's got. I mean, this could also be bars. But if you've got window behind you or window next to you, people look out of the window. And the other thing that happens is people look in the window and comment on what you're doing from a really safe space.
Well, we know about that one, don't we? We were mentioning it. We can mention it because it's no longer there. The one that was in Bristol.
Yeah.
Where we both did that gig, and people were walking past, and they would knock on the window and go like that.
Who's outside? Yeah.
Yeah, it's no good going, we've got your money. Oh, shit, we haven't.
No.
Yeah, that was a fucking terrible
He's going to
gig.
fill in 2 minutes until the number 22 arrives and he can go home.
What was that venue called? Was it Jesters? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That's one of its names. Yeah, awful, because they had a lovely, brilliant room upstairs that they hired out to a samba night.
As it was chaos and mayhem, just faint strains of dun 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 dun. Dun.
Yeah. On their Sprung dance floor. You got to remember, a lot of people really don't trust or like comedians. And we meet them everywhere. You meet them at gigs. Yeah, sometimes they're the organisers or the people who have had comedy foisted upon them, and for them it's just a pain in the arse. You know, we've got to move all the tables around, we've got to move all the chairs round. You know, they come in, you know, they think they're something, don't they? With their funniness, tricking you into laughing, tricking you.
Very true. Yeah.
The final one actually is pub. Corner of a pub, not paying. I mean, okay, I'm going to qualify this by saying I do realise that open spot comedy, there's many gigs that are in this situation, mainly because they're not going to charge you to put comedy in the corner of the bar with the punters just barely taking notice. They're quite happy to do that. And if you're booking the 15 comics, they're thinking, well, at least one of them's going to buy a drink rather than soda water and lime, and we're going to make money on a Tuesday night. So, and I'm not against that. You have to, you know, when you start, you're going to be in that situation, and you can learn a lot from being in that situation because it's not a good one to be in. And if you can get last there, you're good. You won't. You're starting to get good. But I've done them, and it's a different. You just got to have so much more attack about you. They're sat in their usual chair, in their usual place, and you've come in and decided to talk to them when normally they're not even talking to each other.
Well, I did a gig once in a place called St. Helens, and it was run by, Johnny Vegas was involved in it, but we got to the pub and the guy would not turn any of the football screens off. So we had to do the gig. And occasionally, and he flat out refused. The landlord just went, no. They like the football.
The fruit machine, not turning the fruit machine off that plays tunes, not turning the music off. Sometimes you struggle to do that. I've done a gig in a corner of a pub in Brighton, and it was England versus Germany, and England won 3-2 after being 2-0 down. Even I was not watching the comedy. I was into the game, and we begged him not to put the gig on. But in the end, he said, "I won't pay you unless you do the gig." So we did the gig. Everyone died, and we took our money, went home.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, isn't it? You've just touched on that. Very high principle goes, I cannot possibly perform under these circumstances. And then the guy goes, well, if you don't perform, you won't get any money. He goes, I find I've suddenly changed my mind. I can perform. My principles are worth this much.
Yeah.
And then everyone just goes,
I'm happy to die. But the thing is, when you know you're going to die in that situation, you just say all the acts, we're going to die. Let's just enjoy our death as much as we can, and go out, and you're not going to really fight.
In the early days of the alternative comedy circuit, when it was in its infancy, rooms above pubs were actually where it started, and they were ideal because they were sealed off from the rest of the pub. You had to go upstairs to get them. It was always like a small theatre space.
I prefer the cellar under the pub because I think it's a separate room. Sometimes it's even got a separate entrance, and the other thing is the ceilings are lower, and it means that you get more benefit for your laughs. So that would include places like downstairs at the King's Head, which is one of my favourite venues.
It is a great venue, yeah.
And there's something salubrious about a cellar, which suits comedy.
I know. I tell you what, there was a place called the Crown and Castle in Dalston Junction. I don't know whether you remember.
Yes, I used to drink in it.
One night, he used to really fuck about and improvise, and it was quite rough and feisty. The audience were always heckling them. But he goes, he said, what do you want me to do? And someone went, why don't you fuck off? Go outside. He goes, yeah, I will. And he opened the window, and there was a narrow ledge. On the window like that, and he goes, yeah, I'll show you how brave I am. And he went out to the window and was walking up and down, and everyone was going, way. Then somebody got on stage, just shut the window and locked it out.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
It was January and he nearly froze to death, and at the end he was doing this. All right, yeah, I realised it. Yeah, let us back in. He went, no mate. Oh, it's fucking chaos.
Camden Head in Islington had a little ledge and bit outside the window, and there's a couple of acts that knew it. A bloke called Paolo, I can't remember his second name, but he used to just jump out the window. So did Jimbo. Go, that's it. Oh, I've had it. Just jump out the window. And everyone think they've actually killed themselves. Then his head would stick back up again and go, oh, no, I'm okay.
Okay. Boo!
Yeah, booing when he came back up.
I mean, you just reminded me, I just want to tell that one story of one of the worst gigs I've ever had when I did a corporate gig. The stage, there was no stage. I was using the same equipment as the DJ. I was under the spiral staircase between the top restaurant and the bottom restaurant. And the whole way through my set, people just go, excuse me, mate, coming right across the front and going up the spiral staircase. I only lasted about, it must have been about 15 minutes at tops. And the woman who'd organised it was at the back doing the famous...
That's it.
There was no way you were going to get their attention. I was literally under the stairs. Oh, God, it was horrible, horrible, horrible.
Yeah, sounds like a children's story, that, doesn't it? The comic under the stairs.
The comic under the stairs. He'd been very naughty, boys and girls.
So, in terms of the bottom, worst one, pub in the corner of a bar. Number two, because we never did Zoom gigs, which, of course, I find bloody awful.
No, they were terrible.
But I'll let you have, what was your choice?
Hotel function rooms.
So, I'll tell you what, we're going to put restaurant number 2, hotel function rooms number 3.
Yeah.
Nightclubs, I think, has got to be number 4.
Oh, yeah.
And what was I had golf clubs number 5, and you had what?
I had theatre foyers or anywhere outdoors. I mean, golf clubs, I think, should go in.
Golf clubs.
I mean,
so that's our bottom 5.
Mm-hmm.
And top 5, working up from number 5. I had Village Hall, but what did you have?
I had room above a pub. I don't mind. I mean, Village Hall's. I'll let you have that one.
Okay, Village Hall, and then I've got pub cellar, and that should be versus room above a pub. If you want, you could put both in.
Ooh, put them both in. I think what we should say is pub with designated space for comedy.
Upstairs pub, upstairs downstairs.
Yeah, upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah. And then I've got theatre studio space.
Yeah,
as
I'll
three.
give you that. That's very similar to Art Centre. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then theatre stage, I put above it. I don't know if you had those two the other way round.
No, I didn't. No, I had theatre stage because that's fantastic when you get.
And
good
number
theatre.
one, for the 45th consecutive year, it's your purpose-built comedy venue. Even though I know the Comedy Store initially wasn't in a purpose-built venue, but we still like those. And there's many others. I'll be doing one quite soon in Hull, which is I quite like, Hull Comedy Lounge. So
yeah, I mean, there are other comedy clubs are available, like the Glee Club or the Stand, or there's loads of. Where the actual purpose of the thing is to watch comedy and to enjoy it. Who knew?
Havens of the comedy art form. That's what they are.
Yes.
So that's our list then. So what I might do is I'll put the list up. I might even make a little film of the list, a little countdown.
That'd be good, yeah. We could actually put it out to the audience themselves. Send us in your favourite. You can name them if you want in there, but send us your favourite type of spaces.
Rather than venues, spaces. So any comedians watching this, you want to tell us which ones you prefer, if you differ, and say, well, wait a minute, you should have put that in, and then tell us about it.
Participate, we've asked you a question, give us some of your answers. Yeah, just generally spread the love around and help us become one of the biggest podcasts in the history of recorded comedy.
Yes, and one of the biggest niche podcasts. It turned out in our first 2 weeks, we were 138th in the world.
Yes, I knew it! Yes, truly, Paul, we are the Sprung dance floor of comedy podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We're like the 138th spring in a Sprung dance floor. The most important one, right near the edge.
Anyway, thank you very much for watching, listening, and that's it for this week, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. We're going now. No more stuff for you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
They said you should have been here last week. I swear you should have been here last week.